Hello and welcome back to the Tree of Life podcast. My name is Jacob Totson.
And this is QB May.
Yeah, well, that was a radio show. Are we on BBC Radio? But it's August, which means it's hot, one, but also this is the time that spirituality starts kind of seeping back into the world a little bit. And I think spirituality is tied to the cool wind. Because as soon as August started coming around, the cool wind in the morning started coming back. And I start feeling the spirits again.
It's so true. Because we were literally saying that this week in our house. We were saying there's a coolness, there's a sharp like crispness in the air that almost feels like autumn. But it can't be. Right?
Right, yeah. And it's just in the morning. Like I sat out this morning, like I go out and there's just like a little park near my house and I was just drinking some water and there was that little whisper. It's just a whisper of cool breeze. And
Yeah.
you know, it's still going to be like hot today, but at least in the morning I have a whisper of autumn and things to come.
Yeah. It's for these people that feel like they really love the chai, what's it called? Pumpkin spice lattes.
PSL
I
time.
I wait all year for it, and if I get a hint of it on the breeze, then I am delighted.
Are you a PSL? Do you like pumpkin spice lattes?
Love it. I live for it. Literally, I live for it. It's the best drink ever.
Who does a good pumpkin spice in Glastonbury? There's Hefis do one.
Ooh. No, I don't want to advertise them.
Oh no, you go to Starbucks or do you go to Grove?
But I don't want to advertise them.
All right. So, Kubi, well, this is also a good announcement for our listeners out there. Is that our next episode was going to be in person because I'll be in Glastonbury next month. But what we should do is our next episode, we should share a pumpkin spice latte from one of the local places in Glastonbury.
Yeah. We don't want to be sponsoring they who shall not be named.
I would be interested almost to just record a video in the town square, like right under the Market Cross, I think that'd be kind of fun. And if random Glastonbury people pop up, it's whatever. We'll be like, so what do you think about this?
Random interviews along the way. Like, so good. Yeah, it's going to be great. That's going to fly by, isn't it, before you're here? And it feels literally like 10 minutes since you were here before, but it definitely wasn't, was it? Was it October last year?
Yeah, it was October last year. It's essentially almost been a year.
Yeah.
No, I'm really looking forward to seeing you again and walking the lands of Avalon. And I know we got some cool plans, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. But it's really interesting. Like one thing I was, reflecting on as we were talking is, as we have always said, like I love following the seasons. I really do. I'm notorious for hating summer because, especially back in the States here, it just gets so freaking hot, But it's still, I love feeling the turn of the wheel. I love knowing that every single day things are changing ever so slightly. And I really feel even more connected when you actually pay attention to those things. And I really think back of how many times in my life I didn't notice the cool autumn mornings that sometimes popped up, that little whisper. Because I think we can so get lost in the mundane of every day and lose sight of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. We do. Life kind of like rushes past, doesn't it? And we sort of forget to stop and take it all in. Just having a mic malfunction.
But could you imagine, like, I know there's many places in the world, but like places that are on the equator that don't have season changes, that would be weird, honestly.
Yeah. I wouldn't like it. I do really enjoy that we get these very sort of distinct seasons, and they all offer something very beautiful, don't they?
Yeah, I know in Ecuador when I was there, they were saying that one, the sun rises at 7 and sets at 7 every day. There is no
What?
change because they're on the
Seriously?
equator, so it's the same every day. So I mean, I guess there's some consistency, and then they do have the rainy season and not rainy season, and that's it.
Yeah, that's exciting. Rain or no rain.
Oh, it's slightly more moist.
Yeah. But yeah, it does feel I mean, we've just had Lughnasadh here, which is the first harvest. So that always starts to feel a little bit autumnal anyway, because that's all very much like your golds and yellows and autumnal palettes of the harvest and the sunflowers and the wheat crops and all of the good things. So that's been we've had a fun time in Glastonbury. The goddesses have all been in town.
What happens
Celebrate.
during Lunasa and Glastonbury?
Chalice will do a little ceremony. There's normally one up on the tour. It normally coincides with the goddess conference, so there's an influx of goddess women in town. But yeah, so essentially it's just a celebration of the first harvest and what people are reaping from the seeds that they sowed at the beginning of the year. So it's been really nice for that, and it does have. I think that has ushered in a slightly autumnal feel, but people will be hanging us for this in autumn anyway. In August. You're like, don't you dare usher in the autumn in August.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, one, the idea of a goddess conference actually sounds terrifying to me. Like,
Yeah, it is.
for some reason, it doesn't ring off as peaceful.
No, it's slightly imbalanced.
Yeah. Like Glastonbury is already a very feminine place, and so the idea of even more feminine rushing in there.
Yeah. I think what they need to invent is a god conference and have a little bit of both in the town. Do you know what I mean? Just keep it nice and balanced.
Well, an interesting thing there is, we talk about someone having a god complex, but we never talk about people having a goddess complex. And
Exactly.
that's the thing.
Yeah. If it's not the same thing, I'll eat my hat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just always think about when that woman, I'm sure we talked about on the podcast, but I was there last time filming on the tour and she like stopped while walking by. And it was just like, I am the representative of the goddess of light. It's like, oh my God. You need to chill out.
Like, how do I actually go for a day job as well?
Yeah, what is the goddess of light? How do you pay your bills? Like,
She's just like stacking shelves the next day in the grocery store. Like,
probably, yeah.
funny.
So a little bit, so Lunessa, what does it mean to you?
Well, beyond the first harvest and a lot of gratitude and a lot of reflection I think the things that have gone well this year. It's almost like a mid-year sort of checkpoint of like how are things going since the New Year's resolutions were set. But it's if you look into the Celtic folklore around Lughnasadh, and Lughnasadh just means assembly of Lu, which is the god of light, interestingly. And his foster mother Teltiu, the story goes that she sacrificed herself, she worked herself to death, clearing the lands so that there could be agriculture. And on her deathbed from exhaustion, she says to Lu, remember me by creating an assembly of people this time of year for the first harvest, and there'll be games and celebrations, and Lughnasadh was the result of that, the assembly of Lu. So I think it also speaks to the importance of not burning out this time of year. Because so
Mm.
many of us, I mean, I'm totally guilty for it. I'll take on too many projects, do too many things, visit too many places. And you get to summer and you're like, whew, I am like,
Mm.
burnt out a little bit. So maybe it does speak about, not over sacrificing oneself in the process of harvesting, whatever that means, whether that means, your own personal goals or, a literal allotment harvest. It's
Yeah.
not overdoing it, not overworking yourself to death, finding a
That's
balance.
That's a really interesting perspective. I really like that. And, in reflection, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I've never even realized it. But typically, if I have a burnout point with anything, it comes around this time of year.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Yeah, it's because we do try to take on too much. We're doing the summer holidays, we're going out, we're doing things, we're being physically active. Like just yesterday, 2 days ago, me and my partner, we did a 20-mile bike ride, which is already like a long bike ride. And then we ended up walking an additional 7 miles. We went to a play. We went grocery shopping. We walked the dogs like 4 separate times. We went and got ice cream. We watched a TV show. Like, it's like, how did we do all that in one day? We
One
shouldn't. Yeah,
day.
yeah, it's like we shouldn't have done all that in one day.
Yeah, that's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
But it's that feeling of not wanting to miss out, isn't it? Like the sun is shining, it's kind of light much later on in the day, and you don't want to miss out on those good things.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as we talked about, I think probably the previous episode is just, looking at Scandinavia and, the Norse relationship to things is them having, gosh, 18 hours of daylight. You can
Mm.
totally see that being a thing. And, the Isles are not that different. They might have a little bit less, but they still have tons of daylight this time of year in contrast to the darkness that's coming. And so I think it can feel like you just need to do something all the time, especially knowing that in 6 months' time, it's going to be very dark and very cold and very wet.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's why this is how autumn lures you in. It's like, pumpkin spice latte, nice small
Yeah,
and
yeah,
fruit, and
yeah.
then bam, you're in winter.
Are you saying that the autumn season is gaslighting us? Is
I
it an
think
abusive
so.
relation? Yeah, yeah. It's just
I think it's like luring us into
like,
something.
oh, look at you in your sweater. You're so cute, but it's gonna get cold soon.
Yeah. Buckle up, folks. It's winter suddenly.
Nah, I'm a sweater weather guy. Oh, I look forward to sweater weather all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just look forward to that day when the Christmas jumper comes back on. We all do, Jacob. We all look forward to seeing you in it.
I have two Christmas jumpers just waiting. Taking a brief pause at some point in this video, Kubi and I have been doing this podcast for over a year now, and we don't have any sponsors. I can't sell you Super Greens or Raid Shadow Legends. We can only sell ourselves. And so if you want to support us as creators and the conversations we have, we just wanted to share with you here what we have going on. So, Kubi, what do you have going on that people can partake in?
Oh, I thank you very much. So I have the Path of the Oak, which is a 2-year training. It can be done online or in person with me in Glastonbury. 2-year journey training in Druidic traditions, Celtic healing, studying the folklore, the Ogham, herbs, land magic, ancestral healing as well. It looks like this. I've got a cool little poster for it. But yeah, my first student intake is going to be November, and the spaces are going quite fast now. So if you want to jump on that with me and walk the Path of the Oak together, then the best place to head to is my website. So that's qbmaycrafts.com, and it's all there.
Very
Over
good.
to you.
So yeah, I have a couple things going on. The main thing to kind of bring up is September 26th. I have a shaman retreat in Kentucky. So we're doing it from a Friday to a Sunday, roughly, maybe Monday if you want to stay over a little bit longer. But the nice thing is I'm doing this with 3 other people. This is kind of something new for me. So I've worked with Spirit of Wolf, a Siberian shaman group, for some time. And this is the first time I'm kind of doing a collaboration event with them, which is really cool. So I have 2 initiated Siberian shamans, Nurakam and Ayankam, I think of their names. And they are going to be doing the retreat, and I'm just actually facilitating it. So I'm just doing the cooking and a few small ceremonies, and then I have another helper there named Chris. And so we're doing it in Kentucky. It's less than, I think it's like 160, and you're going to have your meals taken care of. It is a camping event, but it's going to be a great time of year for it. And it's in a beautiful Red River Gorge nature area. And yeah, we're just going to have a lot of different ceremonies. I mean, these shamans are really experienced and just have a lot of really cool techniques that you've probably never seen before. There's not going to be any psychedelics or anything like that. It is pure just like drumming and ceremony. So really looking forward to that. I hope you're able to join us. So that'll be at my personal website, jacobtodson.com. And other than that, I'm beginning this tattoo journey. And so if you want to follow along with that, most of that's going to happen on my Instagram. So I've been starting to post. But I got some cool things coming up. I'll hopefully be able to talk about soon, but that journey is growing. And so looking forward to sharing more of that with all of you. So what do you think as far as the, normal everyday people? Because, that's who listens to this show. We don't talk to typically, I think, many goddesses out there, many druids. We're talking to the people just getting by, the people who are stocking the shelves and don't have a goddess complex. What can they do this time of year to kind of connect to the identity of what Lughnasadh stands for if they're just in normal everyday life?
So I think it's about. I think maybe you could like make a list of all the things that you've achieved so far this year. So the things that you kind of set out to do at the beginning of the year, and that can include like situations that you were in that you didn't want to be in, and now maybe you're out of it, or things or people and situations that weren't on the path that suddenly now are, and just to write a gratitude list of all of that stuff. Because you start to realize then that, whereas our ancestors would be, the reaping of the harvest would be literal. It would be like, look at the hard work we've done, pulling out the weeds, planting the seeds and tending to the land, and they would literally have a harvest to show for it. These days, the modern man, it's much more inward, isn't it? It's more about, your little small achievements and maybe spiritual growth that's happened over the year. And there's, the little New Year's resolutions that either did or didn't take to fruit, by the midpoint of the year. So I think gratitude list is almost a bit of a way of giving yourself a pat on the back with that, and acknowledging, how far you've come, because a lot can change in a few months.
Yeah, and I think looking at what has and has not worked is good.
Yeah,
Because I've been doing that myself just kind of naturally. We're past the midpoint of the year now. We're going into the autumn month. I love autumn and I want to experience and love it. And so I don't want to be burning candles at both ends. I want to actually be able to slow down because that's what autumn begs us to do in preparation for winter. And so for me, I've started kind of shedding things like, hey, what do I want to, keep on my plate right now? And yeah, I think that can be really beneficial in many ways. And then you can almost have like ceremonies of gratitude for that. Like, hey, thank you for my body, for the work. Thank you for all the assistance I've had from the spirits or whatever. And then let things go. Like, hey,
yeah.
this doesn't serve me. This didn't work for me. This did work for me. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And start preparing yourself to slow down more.
That's true, actually, because it's not just about the achievements. It's also about the things that you survived, perhaps, or the things that sort of tested your character that you got through, and the things that you let go of. And it can be all of those things.
Yeah, the 20-mile bike ride. I love riding bikes because it's almost like a meditation for me. And one of the things that it was funny, I was going through my mind, I was racking around, thinking about my own creative works and what is and what isn't working in my life. And it was a hard conversation I was having in my mind. But then I
Yeah.
had this moment, I'm like, I'm so grateful to be able to have these thoughts. I'm so grateful to be able to process these things and think in this way. So like even though it was a struggle, I was grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's taken years to get to that point. I wasn't
Yeah.
that way 6 years ago when I first started doing creative works online and things like that. I always was anxious all the time. I didn't feel grateful. And so, yeah, I think the more you kind of do these practices, the more you realize that the struggles, the failures, the things you weren't perfect in your mind, you're still grateful for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good growth, isn't it? It's all good, like inner expansion of the spirit, of the soul. I actually find like almost the trials that test us out, they're the making of us, really. It's not the good things that happen. It's the trickier hurdles that you jump that really forge a character.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and think about Lunasa in general. Like when you're harvesting, not all your crops are the way you want them.
Yeah.
What you harvest is what you have. You can't change anything about the way you planted 6 months ago. But you can change is how you move forward, and what
Yeah.
you can do for the next harvest.
Yeah.
But yeah, the seeds have already been planted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we actually do have a literal allotment as well. So we did
Yeah.
our first harvest, and some of those carrots, some of them were amazing. They were masterpieces, the best carrots we'd ever eaten. Some of them came out looking like Mandrake Man. They were
You're like, what went wrong here?
like a deformed creature with like extra legs and stuff. Yeah.
Well, we're digging in some interesting depth here because I've been reflecting on like, like factory farming and things like that. Because you go to the grocery store and you
Mm.
see all these like perfect carrots. And, because they've all been, harvested in these farms that are, designed to create things in a very perfect way. We want them to look, I want our carrot to look like this. But in the natural world, not in most of the time, things are not uniform. Things are
No.
weird. They're lumpy. They're mandrakey. Like,
Yeah.
what is it? You see paintings of like what watermelon used to look like. Watermelon used to be like 90% seeds, and then because of like science and engineering, we've made these beautiful watermelons that don't have seeds, and they're more uniform. That's true of so
Yeah.
many natural elements. Is we've kind of refined them to the point of being boring. It's like we
Yeah.
need the imperfections. Like the world is a
Yeah.
beautifully imperfect place, and so are we. And I think that's an important lesson for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it's so strange, isn't it? How much human beings like to neaten things up until they just lose all character or kind of quirkiness. And like you said, it's the weird is the wonderful, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
life itself.
Well, and I think that's, you have people in the ancient past, divining things from random BS they find. Like all the stories I read of people divining things, they're like, I threw rice into a cauldron, and based on how the rice did this, I can divine your future. And it's like they did this because like everything was imperfect. And so they could be like, oh, this little squiggly rice thing kind of looks like an algae. And so that, therefore. But if you have everything is perfect, there's no more divination from the imperfections.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask is there a god of harvest or like a god of like competition and games in the Norse pantheon?
Competitions games, I'll need to rack my mind for a second, but Harvest would be more than likely Freyr or Freya to some degree, to some degree, so like a bit more Vanir energy. Thor's wife Sif is also the goddess of wheat with her golden hair, so there could be an element there. Oh, that was a nice rhyme. Her golden hair, there's an element there. Uh, and then I think, there's a bit of Bragi in there because Bragi was the skald. So, a bit of drinking as well. He was the drinking god. And you had Aegir, who was the brewing god of the sea and things. So I think there's a lot more like elements of that. I would say maybe Thor to some degree would be the god of games because he also does a lot of competitions of strength and things like that. And then
Yeah.
probably Odin to some degree, as Odin does a lot of competitions and things. But as far as like a surviving example of a god of games, I can't remember one at the moment. Not as directly as much as like Lu in any degree, anyway.
Yeah. And what would a celebration like? Is there an equivalent for the Norse in the Norse
Um,
world?
Not so much. There is a bit of it's more of like a modern celebration. I think they have like Winter Night, which is more of like autumn though, is the bringing back in of the summer tools and things like that, and cleaning them and blessing them for the next year and storing them away. But the actual harvest, as far as I know, there's no surviving evidence of the harvest festival. But they more than likely would have had one. And I think this kind of goes back to like local deities. Like I would imagine local deities were much more prevalent during this time of year, is thanking the local deity of the land for the harvest and things like that. I know there was in the Slavic, there's the story of Svetovid that comes from history of the Danes is they talk about stacking the bread or the cheese or one of those, and they stack it in the temple hall. And if it covers the idol of the god, that means the next year is going to be a good harvest as well, and it's good omen. But if you can't cover the idol with the bread or cheese or whatever, then it's a bad omen.
Which, geez, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's like my dream, going into a temple and there's just like a pillar of cheese and bread. Yes, please.
Um, yeah, well, it's just even thinking like this, I'm very lucky. I live near a bakery these days, and so I get all my bread from this bakery. And it's incredible. But the thing you notice about fresh baked bread, it only lasts like 2 days. So oftentimes I'll freeze it, but they didn't have freezers back then. And so thinking about bread, in general, like if you had an overabundance of bread, you might need to just offer it to the gods. Like, oh, look at all this abundance. We have the bread we need to eat and do
Yeah.
what we will, but look at all this abundance we can give to the gods. So I think that's, something that would have been done with bread in the past.
So is that a little ritual that somebody's following more than the Norse pantheon that they could do is maybe do an offering with bread and
Yeah, bread and beer, I think, would be a good offering this time of year.
yeah.
Um, there's a very clear line in I think it's Sigdrfumol that talks about that beer is good for the earth, and offering beer is good. So I think yeah, beer is a great offering this time of year. Good harvest, good Oktoberfest. We're coming. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean Oktoberfest. That's a great example. Oktoberfest starts in September. And so we're getting close to that. That's probably more of like a of example of a Germanic harvest festival.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's very cool. Very cool indeed. There's lots of little things that people do, like making the wheat dollies here as well, or little plaited things with the wheat. You know, little
Yeah.
plaited like things that you can hang up.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really sweet. And then there's things like creating sun loaves. What are they called? Bannock bread, where it's like a sun
Pancakes.
pancakes, not pancakes.
Pancakes. Where?
Bannock cakes, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
They're like a swirl, and they've been sort of designed with the plait to look like the sun.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Lughnasadh kind of bread. That's there. People often use that as a. We made one last year, in fact, me and Loki for one of our
Oh,
ceremonies on
nice.
the land. Yeah, and that's nice because then you can share it among the community, and that might be a nice ritual to do this time of year is to hand out the bread to everyone, and they say what they've achieved so
Mm.
far that year, and then they eat the bread down and do a cheers with the mead sort of thing.
Yeah. I know we just like looking even into our own past with like the Fellowship Northern Traditions, we don't typically have a lot of events in August just because of the heat here in the States. It's just not as enjoyable. But we did just have our men's retreat a couple of weeks ago, and that was really wonderful. And I think, yeah, this time of year is really good. Especially August, Lunasa, and things like that. I think this would be a really good time of year to do things like that, is a masculine retreat, a feminine retreat, and kind of exploring those two elements. I think, in particular, with the men, I think it was really good to have it during the hotter months because, for some reason, men love taking their shirt off when they're around other men. I think it took like a grand total of like 2 hours before everyone was just sitting around shirtless with one another. Um,
You man, you man.
Yeah, I don't even know why. I mean, it's so fast.
Yeah,
It's just like what? I like wearing a shirt, but I mean, I felt left out, so I took my shirt off too.
that's
But
great.
yeah, it's something about just sweating with other men in the woods and doing man things that it feels very connected and rooted in something in the past. So I think following our intuition that kind of shows that this time of year it would have been big for those kind of things.
What else happens at the men's retreat? I'm quite curious. I'd love
Well,
to be a
we
fly on the wall for all of this.
obviously we kiss and we cuddle. Uh, Yeah, for anyone that wants to know a little bit more, I did make a video about it. If someone wants to go check it out, it came out last week. But so the way we kind of had it structured is when someone approached me and said, "Hey, I want to do a men's retreat," I said, "Hey, this can be two things. It can either be a dude fest bro time, or it can be something meaningful and spiritual." Because I think men's natural state is we can be buddy buddy really quick, and it's one of my biggest critiques of masculinity is I've had men that we clearly need to have a deeper talk, but we talk about, jokes and humor and things like that, but we rarely ever get into the depth of conversation. And so I think a men's retreat has a really good possibility of getting into some depth. And so what I did is I took kind of a bit of a sharing circle, but I called it a sacred council. And every night we had a different theme. And we would bring up we would have a cleansing of the space, calling the directions, the gods, the goddesses, the grandfather spirits, and then we would bring up the topic of conversation, and then we would have an open forum for everyone to conversate about it. And so the first night we did masculinity in general and our definition of what that was. Second night we did what we think toxic masculinity is, and
Mm.
the third night we talked about men's sexual health. And it was actually really interesting because each night it just built. And I kind of structured the conversations that way. So the first night we didn't get into too much depth. We kind of just shared a little bit of our experiences. By the second night, we were getting a little bit further, and we talked for like an hour and a half. By the third
Mm.
night, we could have kept talking, but it was like 1 in the morning, and we were still talking. I mean, people were crying. I got chills. Like people
Mm.
really were digging into some depth. Um, and so I think that was really big. There was one point where I kind of did a poll because I was like in the center, and I was like, "Hey, who here's suffered from depression?" And every single guy raised their hand. And I think that was a powerful moment because how many of our generations of masculine ancestors were not allowed to have that same conversation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very powerful generation that we're in at the moment where there's sort of a cracking through to the authenticity of feelings. Men are being given that pedestal to speak from as well, which is
Hmm.
so important because, to be denied of your feelings, it's the core of what it is to be human. And yeah, it takes real strength and courage to speak
Yeah.
publicly. And For me, that is the true masculine, the masculine that
Yeah.
can speak from the heart. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And especially like the vulnerability that a lot of the men got the final night. Obviously, I won't share on a podcast because that would defeat the purpose. But I've already kind of talked about this with people in the outside world a little bit, and immediately men are usually like, "Oh, you're gay."
Ah,
Like
oh,
we had several comments on there. People like, "Oh, this looks gay," and I
really?
do think
Oh,
there's this
God.
like this really big stigma against men's spaces, both from the masculine and the feminine, because I think the feminine can turn it into this like, oh, it's just a bunch of macho men hanging out, this kind of Andrew Tate look, or from the man's side, it's like, oh, you can't have a group of men there because then it's just gay. And I think
Yeah.
those are the two opposing sides. It's like, no, like this is really important. And a lot of times my response is I just give them kiss emojis.
Why isn't it sad that that is still a problem, that that's still a thing? I think that sounds really powerful, the retreat. I think that sounds like it offered a really important space, probably for a lot of guys that just, where do they find that in society normally?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's good because like it's a good contagion, a good virus to spread into the world is talk about your feelings. Because I like to think that now these men can go and they're more equipped to talk to other men about their feelings. I don't know many men in this world. I know people who have killed themselves, who have taken their own lives, and particularly men who don't talk about their feelings. And I know friends who have attempted and are still alive, and we don't talk about it enough. And I think until we start talking about these feelings and this vulnerability, we're never going to have any solution to this. But yeah, young men in particular in this world are killing themselves at a really alarming rate these days.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big problem in the world, isn't it? Did you did you do any rituals?
Yeah, so
And
we did. Like every night we would have a sacred council, and every day or night we would have a ritual of some kind. And so there was kind of a balance. Like I think we were diving more into the vulnerability, a little bit more into the feminine and the masculine with these conversations, and then we'd have these rituals to kind of balance them out as well. And they were a lot more active. And I think this would be good for like summer Lughnasadh kind of thing. I did the spear dance again, but this time we did the spear dance as a trial of endurance to see who could do the spear dance for the longest. And I really love this. And so we would do several rounds because it was hot and I don't want people to die. And so, we taught them the dance. And I think at first we had maybe 15 of the men. We had 20 there. 15 were doing the dance. And then we would do the dance for like 10, 15 minutes. And then we would have a break, go get some water, go into the shade. And then we'd start the dance again. And this kind of gave time for people to stop and be like, it's not for me anymore. And so each round we probably shed, three or four people until we got down to a final two. We got down to final two, and I decided to turn it into like a vote. Who's doing the dance to the fullest and the best? Because at this point they've been dancing for like an hour and 15 hour and a half, something like that, in the beating hot sun. I mean, it's 35 degrees out Celsius. And they're, dancing, pretty aggressive thing. And so we had a vote at the end, and the winner got like a spearhead that someone had purchased for it and had it custom made. So I really felt that call to some kind of summer competition, summer games thing is having this trial of endurance, but with a ritual ceremonial element. The whole time I was there as like the ceremonial person. And so I was doing invocations to the fire. I was giving offerings to the fire, and maintaining like a ceremonial presence to the dance as well, even though they're focused more on like don't pass out under the beating hot sun.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a really cool reflection of lots of other cultures that do, like, is it the sun dance and Native American?
Yeah, it was very much a very baby version of the Sundance.
Yeah. It's important, isn't it? And do you think there is something about men coming together and being in competition that's good for masculinity as well?
I think so as well, as long as there's that balance of support on the other side. If it
Yeah.
becomes this kind of, I think that is the difference between toxic masculinity and not, is if you have this competition and then you have a bunch of sore losers, that's an element of toxic masculinity. But if you have this competition where someone wins and then everyone comes around that person and celebrates them and then celebrates everyone's achievements as well. Like, look at you. Like, and that's what I said. Like, all of us have been out here the whole time, whether you've been a drummer, what if you only danced one time, we all gave our blood, sweat, and tears to the gods to some degree and the ancestors. And I think we all felt that. And it was really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. It sounds like a really meaningful retreat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I mean, this would be a great conversation to have with Edward. Is I feel like he would really enjoy the spear dance,
Mm.
and I think that would be a really interesting thing to bring to Glastonbury at some point. Is the spear dance?
Bet you do.
Um,
They have
huh.
a druid grove of trees now, which is just a small fruit trees that have been planted in a circle at the bottom of the tour,
Yeah,
and there's a fire pit in the middle. So that would be the perfect
that'd be
destination.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I do think, I mean, not that, we've had women do it before. I've done the spear dance 3 times now. But yeah, I think it's a really good, thing for men. Yeah, because like, especially like the Norse, we have images of spear dancers. Nearly
Mm.
every culture on the planet's had some kind of religious connection to the spear.
Yeah.
And so bringing that to life has been a great pleasure of my life so far.
That's great. And it is very Lunasa themed, isn't it? That thing of sort of the competition, the game, the fun and the revelry and the celebration of one another. Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose in a way, when you do come to Glastonbury, one of our plans, of course, is to do a little pilgrimage with a group of friends, maybe to some sort of sacred site for a couple of days. And I always have this image of like, I mean, the only few times I've done this, I did like a big month-long walk from France to Spain, and then I did like the all-night walk, 12 hours through the night to Glastonbury. And there's something about that of like really pushing yourself and testing your endurance in the world, because I think it almost fortifies a feeling of inner strength. You know, if
Mm,
you feel stronger on the outside and you feel more capable on the outside, and you can overcome things like tiredness, stress, physical
yeah.
exhaustion. It creates a robust feeling inside as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and as you said that, I looked at the date, and I think tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of me doing the Vision Quest. Uh,
Ah,
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah, there's something about this time of year that I do think that pushing yourself, there's
Mm,
something to that. Pushing yourself to the edge of exhaustion or what your capabilities you think they are. Again,
yeah,
I've never biked 20 miles before. That's the furthest I've ever biked, but I really enjoyed doing it. Was
yeah.
I tired afterwards? Yeah, but but I did it, and there's something I don't know. Yeah, having that, one of the things I was talking about before this podcast started is this concept of the mythopoetic journey, like looking at your own life within this mythopoetic lens, meaning, what if your life is mythology and you read it through poetry? And that's how we need to start looking at our lives more. Doing tests of endurance, that's so much of mythology, so much of poetry is what someone was able to do. And we all have that capability to do it to some degree.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I suppose that with what you were talking about with that book, there's different phases of a person's life, isn't there? And it's sort of different ways of pushing yourself for each chapter of that era.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The book we're talking about, it's going to be hard to bring it all into just one podcast. I might do some videos on it, but it's called Nature and the Human Soul. It's by Bill Plotkin, who wrote another really of one of my favorite books, which is Soulcraft. And this book, it breaks down basically all of human life into 8 stages, going from birth all the way to and to returning back into the womb, so to speak. And between each of the 8 stages, there's kind of like that thing that pushes you through. What happens to get you through to the other side? And it does like a really nice breakdown. It even gives like an archetype of what characters are each stage. Um, and the thing I really enjoy is like the names of it. So let's see here. Sorry, I was this book is so big. So like stage one, which is the innocent in the nest, like you are a little bird in the nest. Obviously, you have no amnesty over your own life. And so you have a caretaker and you have no self-image at that time. And so you are taking in because you are a pure being. And so a lot of that is given to us by our parents. And so like the task of the first stage, which archetype is the fool, which I find is interesting, because the
Yeah.
final stage archetype is also the fool.
Of course.
And so the task of stage one is the preservation of innocence and the formation of healthy, intact, and culturally viable ego.
Mm. That's quite cool that it ends on that as well. Like it's kind of the alpha and the omega, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just love that. And then I was kind of reading this book, and I was at like breakfast one day, and all of a sudden this like baby, like I mean this baby is probably like 2 months old, looks at me with those eyes, and I'm like, holy shit, you are an old man.
Yeah.
Like like looking at a baby and an old man. It's just like you are two of the same things. You are the same like reverse.
It's so
Um
strange. I've had that a few times where you can, it's almost like you see the face of the god staring back from, like wherever that consciousness has come
yeah.
from. It's like birthed straight into the world. Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of wisdom in babies' eyes, aren't there?
Yeah. For sure. And I think it's because they still and how wild is it that we don't have memories from our infancy?
Mm.
And we it's because our brain wasn't fully developed and we don't have the ability to have long-term memory. But I think it is that veil, the veil between life and death. It's because that's the transitional period between lives. I'm a pretty firm believer in reincarnation these days. I think it's just the option that makes the most sense.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely does. And there's so much evidence for it. Like there's something like 600, I think I read the other day, it's like 600 verified, maybe 6,000, it was something crazy. It was like a big number of verified cases where children had remembered their past life and they had birthmarks that matched the birthmarks of the other people on, and like basically their families would take them there and see if it's true and see if they could find these families, and it'd all be accurate, and they'd have like
Yeah.
birthmarks where the person died, like they were shot or they had like something plugged in, like a life
Mm,
support machine or something. It's really weird. So
yeah.
there's something to that, definitely.
Yeah, I know. I was reading a story. I can't remember the exact details, but it was somewhere in India where this girl, just like, she was like 4, came up to her parents and she's like, I need to go find my parents. And she's like, they're like, we're your parents. She's like, no, 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 my parents from before. And so she like goes on this journey with her parents to this village on the other side of the country and like goes to this exact house and is like, these are my parents. And they go in. And sure enough, like the parents' daughter had died within the birthing window of this other daughter. And she knew exactly the names of all the family. She knew exactly like her bedroom, her toys. She took them exactly to where she was like hit by a car and all this crazy stuff. It was like a big story in India, apparently.
Crazy. Like, so yes, every now and then there's one that just slips through the veil, isn't there, that gets the memory of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how many times I think we've probably mentioned this in the podcast before, but we've all met that person. You're like, this is your first time. This is your first go around, isn't it? And then you meet that person who's like 14, and it's like, how many times have you been on this planet before? You're 14. Yeah.
Literally my two dogs. One of my dogs looks like he's been birthed straight out of the universe for the first time. He's like, and then the other one looks at you, look in her eyes, and she's like the oldest crone in the universe. She's seen it all 100 times, millions of times. So it's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I've met people in their 40s and 50s. It's like, you're like a puppy. You're still like a
Yeah,
puppy. You're just bouncing around this life like you've never seen it before. And
yeah,
then, honestly, for me, it's just like I just look around like feeling like an old sage already. And I've felt that way since I was 20.
yeah. Exactly. It's very mysterious, isn't it? Yeah. So, what are the sorts of other challenges and hurdles throughout the other stages of the book?
I think, yeah, the hardest, it's such a complicated book. And that's the biggest detriment is if you pick it up, just be prepared for a very heady experience. The first 90 pages are all him dissecting his language. And it's like, this is the language I use. This is why I use it this way. But once you get it, it's like it all kind of clicks and it's so good. But I like the mythopoetic language because you have the first 3 stages are adolescence and are up to puberty. And his argument is that most of humanity, it doesn't matter about age. Age has very little to do with his stages. A lot of them, especially after leaving the nest, is your own journey and what society does for you. And so, like, the third stage is the thespian at the oasis. And his argument is that most people never leave the oasis because the
Mhm.
oasis is comfort. And outside of the oasis is suffering. And because we don't live in a society anymore with the wisdom keepers that push us into suffering and say you need to go suffer, we never do. And so many of our world leaders, so many of our politicians, they are all thespians at the Oasis. They've never actually done the hero's journey and found out who they truly are and what their gift is for the world. And the dangerous part about the thespian at the Oasis stage is this is also when you're imprinting from other people and archetypes. So you're going around changing your outfit and you're like, which outfit is best for me? And you can't trust an individual that constantly changes their outfit because they don't know who they are. And so being a teenager and looking up to idols is a good thing because we're trying to find who we are as a person as a teenager. And so
Like
we're
trying
saying,
on
ooh,
hats.
right, yeah, we're trying on so many different hats. And we're like, I like that hat. I like that outfit. Like, I straightened my hair. I'm dyed it blonde. I did a bunch of wild things when I was a teenager. That's why teenagers are so annoying, is because they don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, we don't have the rites of passage anymore to stop that phase. And that phase continues now into adulthood for people is they just bounce around all the time, maybe to some lesser extent, but they don't ever fully form their own self-identity. And so that's either fully based on someone else or they just are lost. And so that's where everything kind of changes because once you become the wanderer and actually go out into the void, it's very scary out there. And then they call that kind of the cocoon phase, is you become the cocoon, and then after that, that kind of next phase begins when you emerge from the cocoon into the butterfly, so to speak. And
yeah,
everything you were up to that point is now gone, and you will become the new version of yourself. And it's about adjusting your relationship to the world in this butterfly state to everything that you were leading up to that. And that's hard, and that's why we have to have elders and wisdom keepers, is because that's difficult.
yeah. Because there's like a real death rebirth in all of that, isn't there? It's like
Hmm.
there is a point within it where you almost don't know who you are all over again. There's like a stage where you're sort of dismantled but still on the floor before you've started the rising into the new character.
Yeah. For me personally, looking at this, when I first started the YouTube, I was still the thespian in the Oasis. Even though I was 25, of course, I was like, I'm an adult. I graduated college. And I think college, university, I think that's our disguise for the thespian, like the cocoon, is we think that we go to college and therefore we emerge as an adult, like a fully fledged adult. And while some people might have that experience, it's not exactly designed that way. You might have more knowledge, but you never actually found yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And it can be a bit of a trick because a lot of people assume they're going to be a finished product when they come out of that. And there's an
Yeah.
illusion to it. And then that sort of the realization when you're suddenly thrust back into the world of, and it's like an abyss, and they have to try and establish themselves in the world as something with more gravitas. It can be quite a shock to the system. I remember that quite strongly myself.
Yeah. Let's see here. So the task of the thespian at the Oasis, creating a secure and authentic social self, one that generates adequate amounts of both social acceptance and self-approval. The subtask are exploring values and learning the skills of social authenticity, learning emotional skills, learning the art of conflict resolution, learn of the status assigning skills, skills in sex and sexual relationships, sustenance skills, studying human nature, reciprocity, and ecological responsibility, and welcoming home the identity of self.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and so that kind of makes sense, and you can see a lot of people at that stage. But yeah, it's the actual going into the cocoon that is much different.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Gosh, that's very cool book.
yeah, no, I highly recommend it. It's just like, yeah, it's pretty heady. But I think it's something that this world needs so desperately, is the hero's journey. But also, I think the main difference between this book and the hero's journey is there's much more of an exploration of what you do with the gift that you receive from the hero's journey. Because most people know the archetype we've talked about on this channel, this podcast before, is once you descend into the underworld, you shed yourself who you were before, and you become both one and shed the old ego. You emerge with the gift. But the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's, kind of loses what you do with that gift afterwards. It's like you just give it back to society. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
Whereas this kind of goes into the more of the details is once you are the wanderer in the cocoon, then you become the apprentice at the wellspring because the wellspring is the gift. You know what the gift is now, but you still don't actually know how to give it to the world. And so you spend time at the wellspring at your gift, figuring out different methods in which to give it back to the world. And it's
Oh,
until you really master those gifts that you don't leave the wellspring and then you start your own wild orchard, is what it calls. It says the artisan in the wild orchard. And that's when you're actually a master of your craft, the master of giving your gifts, the apples, to the world.
that's very cool, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
do you feel you're at now? Do you feel you're there?
That's the interesting thing is, and I think I love the reflection of it, is it gives you the language to describe a lot of the spiritual stuff that we go through that people don't understand. And I even for me, and I thought at first I was at the wild orchard because I'm like, oh, I have the YouTube, I have the nonprofit, I have my apple trees. But I
Yeah.
think the more I've reflected on it, the more I realize that I'm still the apprentice at the wellspring, is I'm still learning. And I think I had this false identity of, oh, you already have it, but I still have so much more to learn. And there's so much more I can do to master this craft. And the apprentice at the wellspring has things, and it clearly says in this book, which is mind blowing. It's just like, no, you can still help people. You know things that other people don't, but you're not a
Yeah.
master yet. It's like you still
Yeah.
have to learn. You still have to learn from spirit and from both spiritual teachers and real world teachers.
And there's something about refining, isn't there? Sort of having your
Mm.
craft, being good at it, but refining it and going deeper and unpeeling more layers to the spiritual underpinnings of things or the craft itself. Yeah. And it's a humbling process to know that maybe you sort of go between the wellspring phase and the apple orchard phase for quite a few years back and forth, sort of going
Yeah,
back to seek the deepening
yeah,
of what you can then bring and then yeah.
yeah. It's good. And I think there's a lot of things to kind of reflect on even just the titles alone. As I do think when we look at like spiritual narcissism, I think a lot of people emerge from the cocoon and they think that is peak. They think that
Yeah.
is the end, and so they're like, "I'm a fucking butterfly. Fuck all of you."
Wow.
uh and then
Yeah.
it's like, but they don't continue the work after that. And I think it's because ascending from the cocoon, you already are ahead of 80% of society. And so I think it can be, one, since you're ahead of 80% of society, you can take advantage of the rest of the 80%, because you're like, oh, I know how to manipulate you because you're still at the
Mhm.
oasis. Or you do think that you're at the peak and you don't continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's a good conversation to have, because there is still emerging from the cocoon is the only at the halfway point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because that's the illusion of being like, oh, I'm a complete butterfly. I'm good. I'm good. Let's go. And then straight away hits a windshield.
Yeah, yeah,
But I suppose it's that sort of fall from the grace of the illusion of the butterfly that cracks them into the humbling era, which is the wellspring.
yeah.
You have
Well,
to be
and
humbled by life.
we can pull it all back to Lughnasadh because if we look at the Wheel of the Year, because they also assign, again, like I don't know if I can find the map real quick, but they also assign each of these times to a cardinal direction as well,
Yeah,
which I find it really fascinating. And so if we actually look at the turning of the wheel, like where we are, here's the crazy map they have here. It's crazy. You're not gonna be able to read it. But so the time of year that we're in is kind of at the artisan and the apprentice in the wellspring. Like we've emerged from the cocoon. We're at past the halfway point. And this doesn't mean it's time to give up. It's time to refine things. And I think that's the best way I can kind of talk about this time of year is you have your wild growth, you're starting your harvest, but how can you refine it for the next cycle?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that, isn't it? It's the learning, reseeding, and like sometimes one thing I've learnt with the allotment is that a vegetable won't grow as well as you hoped, but it will shoot its seeds up. And you can take those. And sometimes you're not meant to have the fruit or the vegetable, but you're meant to have the seeds for the next
Mm,
harvest. It's there's always something that can be taken from it as a forward momentum.
yeah. I love how, I think this is a good message for the people listening is I think a lot of people can listen to us. We're in our 30s talking about these things and we've been through a lot. We've learned a lot. But your greatest teacher this year seems to be an allotment.
Yeah,
Like just
it really
gardening.
is. It
Yeah.
really is. It's I've grown with it. I really have. I was clearing out the weeds of my life and the allotment in October last year, and this year I'm seeing fruit and veg and things coming
Yeah.
out, in abundance. And so, and that feels like a metaphor for life at the moment as well. So, yeah, it's an incredible teacher, nature, incredible teacher. It's actually deepened my connection to spirit, I think, as well. It's given me a deeper, more refined, we would say, like focus on how the nature of life is and the spirit that underpins everything actually operates and works.
Mm.
And yeah, it's
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Again, I love thinking about life in this way. Like even just, you and I talking, it's got me thinking in a different direction on different things. Like, um, everything's a cycle. And it's just beautiful. And yeah,
Mhm.
I love this journey. I love life. Yeah, it's just great.
Gratitude. Absolutely. Yeah, here's to that.
Yeah, but I think that's a good way to end it is the cycles are beautiful, live with gratitude, everything rises and falls but comes back again, and that's what makes life great.
Yeah, yeah. So mote it be.
Wait, what does that mean?
So may it be. May it be so.
So motivating. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Old
It's
English.
witchy stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll end this episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you next month when Kubi and I are in person and on the streets of Glastonbury having a pumpkin spice latte together.
Bye.
Bye bye.